Lunch Money Lambert, Jeff Malott. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation, where we talk about fishing and competition. It's your boy Ox Pippin, aka Ox Fishing. Don't come over here tripping. Hey, hope you enjoy the show. Jeff Malott, Lunch Money Lambert, Lego. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday night.
Tuesday.
Welcome to KBN Live. We skipped last week. Ryan was killing giant elk. I was very busy as well. And it's kind of a downtime, although we're cranking back up. It's not a downtime anymore. We got tournaments everywhere, but we were off last week, so we're back this week.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff, for the week off. I appreciate it.
What's up, Killa? What's up with that elk? Tell us about that.
Living the dream. It was fun. It was a good time. Did a lot more hiking vertically than I'm used to out there. So that was an eye-opening experience. And now I've brought all that home in my chest, it seems. So
okay,
should be a fair week.
Got that solid respiratory infection that's going around?
It's settling in pretty good. I think this cold weather, we're getting down into the 30s in Tennessee now. So that should go ahead and seal the deal on it.
Yeah, it's going to be 34 here in the morning, so I feel you. It's no good. No good.
And you texted me earlier with some Roro news?
Yes, little Roro got her port out today. All a thumbs up with that. She is in the clear. Well, she's been in the clear for a while, but the port out, it kind of feels like rubber stamp official. You know what I mean?
I like it. So,
yeah, she's doing good and running around and saying words and breaking stuff. So she's doing good.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So we got a big show tonight. Two state champs on. We got Zach Branch, who just took home the Throwdown, Lonestar Throwdown, one of the funnest events in KB Nation, of course, but it also is bragging rights for Texas. So Zach Branch and then Eric Thomason, who took down Tennessee Bass Nation State Championship a couple weeks ago. We meant to have him on before now, but he's here tonight, so it should be good.
He's stuck with us.
Yeah,
keep the faith.
I mean, it's fair to say when you say that Texas and Tennessee, pound for pound or whatever, the most talent deep states.
I think if you look down the list of the Tennessee competitors, it's it's a lot of names that you see in the top 10, top 15 of most of the major events as well.
Yeah, so I mean, you win either one of these state championships, I mean, you have summited the mountain of kayak fishing. You don't have to go win a national event. If you can win a state championship against these fields, you've done something. So we're going to talk to both of them. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Little news to get to. We want to update y'all on the Big Bass 250. I tried to last minute snag Jonathan to come in. He was busy tonight, but they're halfway to the 250 with 2 weeks to go, basically, or little less than 2 weeks to go. So the Big Bass 250 coming up. $10,000, one fish, biggest fish of the tournament, longest fish of the tournament. What do you think, man? Can we get there?
I'm ready. You got a new truck to haul cornhole boards in, so
woo-hee,
should be ready to go.
Yeah, that's the biggest news of the weekend. No more Subaru for me.
Jeff is out of the station wagon, so don't be hanging stuff on it anymore. It's not his.
It's not mine anymore. Not mine anymore. I'm in the truck riding in.
Jim talking a little trash. Tennessee can't beat the Hogs. Listen, Jim. That was a charitable write-off. We were focused on this weekend's game, so we're forgetting about that. That's in the past. It's okay.
I feel like nobody's really good this year. Texas maybe, but I don't even know.
We'll find out this week. You'll see what they do with Georgia, but I think they're going to roll Georgia up pretty good.
Yeah, Texas may be the elite, but the rest of the teams kind of look beatable every week. I don't know.
Yep.
So should be a fun 12-team playoff. Who knows?
Yeah, there's no telling who's going to be in it.
Yeah, BYU for the win.
Oof.
Yeah. So yeah, Big Bass 250, man, coming up. Make sure y'all go over there to Eco Fishing, get signed up. I saw the 8 kayaks now on the docket to be given away. Not you win in for fishing, just entering and going to the weigh-in. You can win one of 8 kayaks on top of a ton of other stuff. So it's gonna be a good time. And like Ryan said, we're gonna drag the boards and do some other things up there after the tournament's over with. So should be fun. This week we've got Bass Nation Caddo, Bassmaster Kayak Series Caddo, and the Susky has a no limit event. Is that this weekend or next? This weekend.
It's this coming weekend. I think Thomason's getting ready to head up there as we speak. We'll ask him about that once we bring him live.
Yeah, so a lot going on. It felt like I said, like sort of like a little dead period, but not a lot of tournaments, a few state championships going on. But now all of a sudden it's cranked back up to kind of finish strong. We got the TOC coming up, among other things. So it's going to be a push to the end here.
Oh yeah.
We got some folks in the comments. We're going to do a giveaway tonight. We'll run through the sponsors real quick. Of course, I just talked about the Big Bass 250. Eco Fishing Shop puts on that tournament. They also are the presenting sponsor of the show. Western Son Vodka. They had a big presence at the Throwdown down in Texas. That's kind of where they got latched on to kayak fishing. Was down there with the Texas fellas. So we appreciate them. And Pro Guide Lifting, of course, the 3 presenting sponsors of the show. And then Gil, Revo, and Z-Man are our partners for the show. And tonight we're going to do a little Z-Man pack giveaway because, Ryan, we got a little special picture to show here. Tell us what we got.
We are. It's Z-Man's new product launch. If you've ever tried to throw the big Elastec worms, they were not the easiest to keep on a worm hook. So these are designed specifically for Elastec. It likes to try to pull back on the hook, so we got a keeper on there, and then you have a silicone bead so you can adjust. Like if you're trying to run, just a paddle tail frog, for instance, something like that, you can keep it positioned perfectly where that hook is protected from the cover.
I like it. Smart. We needed that.
Ain't bad. Looking forward to getting some. Put them to use dragging around out here on the river.
There we go. Get over to Z-Man. Appreciate them. And all they do for the show and for the sport in general, always innovating with that Elastec. Yeah. Let's see. We got some more folks in the comments. Appreciate y'all. To get in on the Z-Man giveaway, all you got to do, Facebook share, YouTube comment, and like the video over there, and we'll draw a winner at the end of the show. I know we're on a Tuesday, so people are kind of trickling in tonight because they're thinking, well, we thought we missed y'all last night. But
yeah, we're tricky in our old age.
Yeah, we're here. Send this thing out to your groups, to your personal page, whatever. Hit that share and let folks know we're on tonight, and get it on a giveaway. It'll be good. It'll be fun.
Let's do it.
Let's get these boys in here and talk a little state championship kayak fishing. Boom, boom. Eric, Thomason, Zach, Branch Outdoors. Appreciate both of y'all joining us tonight. Congrats on your wins, your respective wins each.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
The emotion. I love it.
Eric said, I told him I wouldn't bring up the Arkansas-Tennessee game 2 weeks ago, but, I still won't bring it up tonight. Even though
That's fair. That's fair.
We'll let Jim bring it up, I guess.
Yeah.
Zach wandered across the prairie to be able to come on the show tonight. So we thank you for the sacrifice.
Yeah, see how dark it is? He drove to the edge of the earth to find signal, and now he's with it.
Over here, if you watch the comment out of my window over here.
There you go. A little astrology on the side.
That's awesome.
Well, let's get into this thing. Thomason, you're obviously on here for winning the Tennessee Bass Nation State Championship. Who won it last year?
Oh, goodness. I didn't fish it last year due to a scheduling conflict. I think Ethan Jett won it last year.
Yeah, I think it was Ethan Jett, and then wasn't it Marshall the year before?
Yeah, well, I think he beat Marshall, by a small amount, and then I think Marshall won it the year before that.
So it's storied. It's a storied trophy passed around the state here.
It is. I mean, it's it's a limited field, and just like you said, it's just I fish on the national scene, and a lot of those guys that hammer them on the national scene are right there, in the state of Tennessee. And then, kudos to Steve and Daniel for kind of coming up with a regional trail where you got some incredibly gifted anglers that can't leave for a week to go fish a tournament, but Luke Graham, mopped the floor in that series as AOY. He mopped the floor at 10 Cat. I won I won 3 times at 10 Cat and had a couple of high finishes. Usually that's a walk-away angler of the year. He won 4 times. And, I mean, it was pretty much either won or I won, which, kudos to him. But I've had a great year, been on kind of a little bit of a heater. We had a grassroots weeknight classic Sunday night, and they carried money over from the season, and I won that and won the progressive big fish. So on a Sunday afternoon, I took home about $1,200.
You're doing all right then.
I was like, things are going good. I hope Susky and TOC play out in the same way. So
yeah, if you see Thomason at Susky, walk up with your hand out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you're on a burner, man. You're on a burner. We'll get into the details of that 2-day tournament with the championship. But Zach, real quick, you fished the Throwdown over the weekend. It's widely known as probably the largest celebration in kayak fishing on top of being a tournament. Tell us about your season leading into the Throwdown and what you thought of the event.
Definitely. I mean, I'm new to kayak fishing and just tournament fishing in general. This is my kind of the end of my second full year doing it. And I mean, I've always fished my whole life. And of course, it's totally different than going out and just having some fun and fishing, and, this season, I know I didn't really have any major wins or anything that I could say where I cashed some checks, but I know there were a lot of tournaments where this year I was really, really close where, I mean, I was a few fish away, multiple events to getting, whether it would be first place or at the top, but I just missed it. And like y'all said at the beginning of the show, I didn't fish any real national events this year, but almost every one of the trails that I fished, the Texas KBL trail and the All-Star trail, I mean, there's so many good anglers out there that, I mean, you really have to have one of the days like I had the other day where it's like everything just falls into place. I kind of gave credit to God because I was like, I know some people might think it's luck, but I was like, man, I feel like it was I just kind of had that, I guess what's the right word? I had this little voice in my head. It was like I was moving around that day of that tournament, and something told me to switch gears and start trying a different technique with about an hour and a half to go, and that really, really paid the price for me. But I know the tournament just before this was the Texas KBL Classic for me. It's a 2-day tournament, and I mean, it's the guys that fish that trail. I mean, there's probably kind of like Kirsten, there's probably 7 or 10 of those guys that are consistently, when they do go fish the national trails, they may not have the time to, but when they do, they're always very competitive in those trails. So I know that last event before the Throwdown, I feel like I got a little bit of momentum. I didn't cash a check, but I finished in 7th. It was the top 50 of the Texas KBL event. I didn't get the big bites, but I had a good finish there, and it kind of gave me a little bit of confidence going into this event, and everything just seemed to fall into place for me.
Ryan, how many times we talked about that, man? When it's time to win, like the stars align. You get all the breaks, you make the right moves, you make the right calls. We've talked about that so many times. But
37 times.
Yeah, I mean it's real. I mean, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Yeah, but pivot back over to you, Eric. Man, you know, a couple weeks ago you won the championship. You talked about being on a heater, and we'll get into the differences between the two tournaments y'all fished respectively, because this Tennessee's 2-day, Texas a 1-day shootout. I know there's a difference with strategy and how you manage fish and things like that. But get into Tennessee's 2-day championship and what you had going into the tournament and going into day one.
Yeah, you know, I've been to Guntersville, you know, maybe 4 or 5 times, and most of the times I've fished way north. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to fish south, and got some input from some folks that have had some experience there. And I'm not a really good grass fisherman, and Guntersville is not the ideal place for somebody that doesn't particularly like to fish grass. And so I was kind of I was trying to find something that wasn't grass. So I practiced on Thursday down south, basically downtown Guntersville, and there's tons of riprap and some bridges and pylons and more. There's big factories right on the river there, and so it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And we had our tournament going on. The Alabama State tournament was going on. There was like 12 guys in it, and then there was a knucklehead deal with KBF that was like 80 guys. And there was only one guy at the ramp, you know, on tournament day. and there were several people that practiced there when I was there on Thursday. But I had a fair practice, and no big fish, no real big bites except for one. And I was kind of like, okay, I wouldn't even plan on practicing. I had a scheduled thing free up, and so I got down there Thursday, fished Thursday afternoon, and I said, well, I'm gonna go upriver on Friday. Well, I go upriver, current's probably 3-4 miles an hour. It's flooded, but there was some areas you could get into that I've never been able to access, even at full pool. So I got to do some exploring and just absolutely wrecked them. I mean, wrecked them. And there was nobody up there. And I was like, okay, what do I do on Saturday? And so I said, you know what, I'm going to start south. And I'm an solid hour from my north spot. And I get going, have a small limit by maybe 10:30 or 11. My biggest fish at the point was 16. I was like, okay, let's go hit the riprap. I kind of saved it till it warmed up a little bit. Go fish the riprap. Don't really, get much of anything. Turn the corner. Lambert knows this. There's so much eelgrass you could just about walk on it. And I was like, okay, I can't really do much here. And so I looked at a spot across the channel. I was like, that looks interesting. Run over there, fished it, didn't get anything. And then I get up next to this factory, and I start noticing some bait fish. And then I turn this corner, and there's a hubcap-sized pipe coming into the water, and it's running water into the lake. And it's not like gushing in. It's just like a half faucet speed. And I'm like, this is interesting. And the closer I get, the more bait fish I see. And by the time I get where I wanted to fish, there was probably 8 million bait fish. Like, this has got to be good. So I fire a 130 plopper over the top of it. The bait fish go crazy. The big fish start eating the bait. I didn't catch one on that, and then I threw a spinner bait in, and I caught an 18, a 20, and an 18 in 3 casts. I was like, okay,
it's a good spot.
So, and then I let that calm down and went out and fished the riprap, threw a glide bait, catch a 19 1/4, and I'm like, well, holy cow, what else could go right today? And honestly, that was my B spot, for the tournament. And so finished the day in first by a 1/4 inch. Felt very grateful to kind of get that rush, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with my gut, and I'm going to go upriver. And of course, I'm rooming with Pro Neighbor and Jordan, and they're thinking I'm completely, lost my mind for not going back to where I caught those fish. And so I went up there on the second day. No one there. Steve Owens, God love him, loves to fish in the dark, so I can't really see what's going on. When I launched, and so as it starts getting lighter and lighter and lighter, I'm like, holy cow, they've freaking lowered the lake, 3-4 feet. It was no longer muddy. It was no longer flooded. It was actually fairly clear. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I made my way to the first creek mouth, and I had a buddy, Abby, tell me to get some of those Evo tungsten chatterbaits, and I followed his lead, and he gave me a couple tips on how he fishes them, and he was spot on. And so I throw it in this creek mouth. My first fish of the day on Sunday was 21 3/4. And I'm like, well, that's a good start, And at that point, I thought, you know what, this is gonna be my tournament, my day. It's gonna happen. And so I keep fishing. I don't get another bite until 10:30, and I'm about to panic because I probably caught 40 fish in practice in that same stretch. And I'm like, they gotta be here somewhere. And at about 10:30, I caught a 17 3/4, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick it out here. I'm gonna just keep making my way up to the kind of area where I really got some better bites. And Lambert probably knows exactly where I was at, but there's two concrete walls in the river that almost create a secondary channel. And there's a whole bunch of these barge ties, caissons, whatever you call them. And I'd gotten a big bite there in the summer Gunnersville tournament on the second day, and I didn't hook up with it. And it was kind of strange because I was fishing a spinnerbait like I was fishing a foot of water, and it was 22 or 23 feet deep there. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I got up to that point, and I had 4 fish, and 3 good ones and 1 smaller fish. And my 5th fish for Sunday, I threw a chatterbait down there, let it sink to the bottom, and almost fished it like a flutter spoon, and one just blistered it, and it was a 20 1/2. And I was like, okay, here we go. This is going to happen. So then I started looking at the leaderboard, and I rarely ever sandbag fish. I typically submit them when I catch them. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hold steady with these two big ones. And so I submitted a smaller limit and waited until they turned the leaderboard off to submit the two bigger fish. Well, right before the leaderboard went off, I was behind by a quarter inch, and I was like, oh no. I was tied, and I had big fish, and he had a really good bag, and I thought, well, it's going to be just as hard for him to pull up as it is me. So I get myself together. I'm sorry, I got an hour left. Let's just put everything into it. Went down the canal channel, just wasn't feeling it. Flipped back around and fished that same area where all that man-made stuff is, and hooked into like 18, 19 fish, just a quality fish. And I was like, that's the one right there, and it comes off, and I'm like, oh God, it's not going to happen. So I only had about 30 minutes left at that point, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go back in the back of this pocket. I'd caught one earlier on a frog back there, and I threw that frog in there, and I catch a 17 1/4, and it called me up 2 1/4 inches. And I was like, you know what, if I don't win, it ain't meant to happen. And that was 6 minutes left. I caught it at 224. Lines out was 230. And then
clutch.
It was. There's two sides of me. There's one where, if I go to a 2-day tournament and I do completely, terrible on Saturday, I might leave Saturday or Sunday morning. The other side of me, if I've got a decent shot at it, I'm really a grinder. I'm not some people want to do the best they can every single day. I'm wired a little bit differently. If I'm in it, I'm really in it. If I'm not, I realize that I'm not gonna sniff a check. I'll just take it on to the house and let somebody else hold the trophy.
I like that.
So.
Zach, was your tournament as dramatic, or did you wrap it up pretty early on there? We took a peek at your stringer there. It looks like you had a few that you can't really argue with on that.
Yeah, let's not bury the lead here, Zach. Let's just go straight to the top of your stringer and talk about this thing.
Oh my God!
I mean, my Lord.
That's what you're looking for on tournament day, I hear. I've never ran into it, but dang.
I tell you what, that right there is what I think that right when I put it on the measuring board, I was like, well, if I don't win, that's a show enough big bass. It was a giant, but I mean, my day, of course, I feel like 2-day tournaments, I personally, again, I'm brand new to this kayak fishing, so I feel like I'm just kind of getting started, but I like 2-day tournaments because even if I don't win, I like the fact of knowing that, like, I commend you, Eric, because I mean, to win a 2-day tournament, you got to put it together for 2 days in a row, and that's amazing feat, And with mine, I mean, still putting it together in 1 day, it does take something, but I feel like getting it 2 days in a row is really awesome. But like with this event, you could fish Lake LBJ, Lake Buchanan, or Inks Lake. So you could kind of pick which of the 3 lakes you wanted to fish. And I know for me, Lake LBJ was the only one that I really had any experience that I felt like I could put together a bag, because I assumed it would take 97 or 100 inches to win the 1 day, the throwdown, just with all the guys that fished it. I would say, I mean, I didn't really have necessarily drama. There's a little drama in there, but not a lot. I know the area that I went to fish, I've been super busy working, and I didn't really get out to pre-fish the week before the tournament, but I was kind of fishing off history. We had an AOI championship for the All-Star Trail about a month before the throwdown, and I really crushed them in practice there. And I going into the throwdown, I was kind of like, I crushed them in practice before that AOI championship, but during the tournament, I didn't crush them. I think I finished 10th there during that tournament. Didn't really get the big bites, but I knew that the big bites were there. I just couldn't get them to convert that day of the tournament. So when the Lonestar Throwdown kicked off, I know, there were so many guys at the ramp that I went to. I mean, you could launch at 3 lakes, and there wasn't a ton of us there, but there's about 25, which I thought was, if you could launch anywhere on 3 different lakes, there's 25 of us out of 120 at one ramp. I was kind of thinking, I was like, man, we're probably all going to be fishing the same stuff. But I will say, I know Eric mentioned the frog. I had several people mention to me, they were like, why are you fishing a frog, man? It's October, And I was like, dude, I'm fishing with whatever I can get a big bite on, that's kind of the way I fish, it may be different than what someone else is doing, but for me at that tournament, didn't really even have a limit that day until about the tournament I fished ended at 3 was the last submission. I caught that huge one that we were just looking at what time was that? That was at about 1:30 p.m. is when I caught that one. So I had about 1 hour or hour and a half left, but the morning started off for me. I caught a bunch of fish, but they were all small. And I know I started off, I caught I don't know, 3 or 4 that were under 12. And then I landed one that was a 15 and some change. And then I kind of snuck back to the very, very back of a cove in some super shallow water that, I mean, it was 1 foot deep, you know, I mean, it was very, very shallow, but I fished that area 3 times and I've caught fish 17 to 20 inches every time I went back. So I went back there and connected with 117. I believe it was 17 and a half, I think is what I caught back there. And made my way back out of that creek and hit a brush pile. And I pulled, I think, 3 or 4 off that brush pile. One of them was an 18. And looking at the leaderboard at that time, I was sitting about 50th out of the field, you know, and I knew that obviously I needed to convert and get a big bite. And something was just telling me, I was like, man, I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to just throw a frog and a chatterbait the rest of the day. That's all I'm going to do. And just look for that big bite. Cause I had 4 fish and I knew if I could get a 20-inch fish and then get 1 coal, I feel like I had a chance to cash a check, which is what I was looking to do. Being new. I mean, of course I want to win, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, I want to be up there at the top. And so, of course, as I started to move out, I moved to one area with the frog, and I caught I believe it was, I think it was an 18 or so. And I caught that fish. I scooted over to a dock, and I know there was a series of docks that I knew I was going to skip and fish with the chatterbait. And man, when I skipped up under the dock and that almost 26 incher came, hit it. I said when they were there, we were talking at the end of the tournament, at the throwdown, that I skipped up under there, and we all know that if you're fishing a chatterbait, you know, sometimes they hit it and it's just like they just crush it. It's like a huge thump, and you know they're there, set the hook and they're there. But with this fish, it was almost like a dead weight. You know, it was like I was reeling my chatterbait way from under the dock, and it felt like I almost hit a branch because it was dead weight. I set the hook and I was cranking. I was like, man, what is this? It's dead, you know. And about that time, that big old girl came out from under that dock, and I saw her, and I thought, that's not a bass. That's way too long to be a bass. She came up and jumped, shook her head, and I could see the chatterbait was way down in her throat. And so I knew I was good, but I scooped her up real quick. And I'm not going to lie, when I scooped her up and had her in the net in my kayak, it was probably about 15 seconds that I just looked at her, and I was like, oh, my gosh. Because, you know, when you just look at that bass between your legs after you've been looking at 15, 16, 17-inch fish, all of a sudden you got an almost 26-inch bass. I was kind of just in the moment of like, wow. And then the only drama I really had was as I was taking pictures of this fish. Thankfully, I had my tether on my phone. I'm trying to get a picture of her, and I didn't fight her for very long because I was right on the dock, and I scooped her up real quick, so there wasn't really a fight. So she had a lot of energy. And as I was trying to take a picture, she's jumping and literally jumped, and her tail whipped up and hit my phone out of my hand into the lake. And I pulled my phone up real quick off the tether. Thankfully, it stayed connected. And I got the picture real quick. And I know Eric about kind of not submitting the fish. I actually thought for a second, I was like, you know, I'm going to wait and not submit this until the leaderboard turns off. But part of me was sitting there going, I was like, man, what if my phone quits working? You know, just took a dip in the water.
Was it an iPhone or a Droid?
It's an iPhone.
Well, you was smart. Go ahead and submit that.
He did the right
I was gonna say, I was like, I can't risk. This is my first chance to win. I was like, I'm gonna just submit it, and if people see it, whatever. And I went ahead and submitted it. I went from 43rd. I went from 43rd to first place, and I knew that at that point, I still, even though I had a 25.75, I still didn't think that I would win. Like, I honestly didn't think I would win. I felt like I had a 15-inch fish as my small fish, and I thought if I could get a 17 or an 18, I could kind of seal the deal. So I had an hour and a half. I really grinded. I caught about 4 more fish, but they were all under 15. And driving in and going to the awards, I know I couldn't control nothing, but I was nervous because I was like, man, someone's going to bring in a 96, a 97, maybe even 100. But I mean, I was honestly shocked when I got there. And as I started going through the awards and saying, when they finally got to about third, I realized, I was like, you know what? I think I finally got my first win here. And, but I mean, it was, I don't know the right word for it, but it was a feeling that, yeah, that's for sure.
That's crazy. You know, just like we were talking with Eric, I'm scrolling through the leaderboard over here. I'll throw it on the screen. But as you scroll through this leaderboard of the Throwdown, it's just same thing like in Tennessee. You're seeing names that if you were at any tournament anywhere in the country, you're seeing these same names. You know, Rolando, you get Scotch on there, Philip Wyatt, BDH, just on and on and on. So to hold off a field like that, I understand why you were nervous, but you held them off,
Okay.
and you got it done. Unbelievable.
10-inch cull helps, I think.
Yeah, usually helps.
That's usually a little boost.
You got a 10-inch cull between your legs. Everybody's happy.
That's what I was going to say.
I was gonna make that joke earlier, but I'm trying to hold back to not in my.
Hey, I'm
poor
talking about
health.
the fish.
Well,
That's what I meant.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Before I caught that 26, in my mind, when I went around the end of that cove, I was kind of thinking, I was like, you know, if I can get a 20 and then maybe a 17, I could be in a good spot. And little did I know I was going to 20, almost 26, you know. I mean, it was just like, and I feel like that's one of those things that, you know, that's why I only give credit to God, because I feel like it's like, I literally picked the dock that, because I was going to a spot that had some vegetation that I caught a 23 and 3/4 inch bass about a month before, and I passed that. Something told me to turn around and go back and start fishing there, and then work my way back to that little area. And it was about my sixth or seventh skip under that dock when I caught that one. So I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, you know, when it's your time, you know.
One quick question before I hit back to Eric here, but I see your name, Branch Out Outdoors, so I had to look up your YouTube channel. Boom, there it is. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Is there a video of this monster coming out from under that dock that's going to be on this channel?
I will have a video. Of course, I will say this. For whatever reason, my GoPro on this tournament day turned off 5 times. And I've got a video right after I caught her, but I caught her, and I wish I had the video, because the excitement in my voice, the way I acted, is unlike anything I've personally ever done fishing tournament.
Little buck fever on the bass?
More than buck fever. Like, once I landed her and I got her in, I was just like screaming and pounding my chest. I was like, yeah, let's go. And I turned around to see my GoPro, and the dang GoPro's turned off. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I have a video of right after I caught her, but all the other catches I've got on my GoPro. But yeah, unfortunately, it was one of those deals where, talking with one of their anglers, I guess the battery pack that I use on my GoPro, they were telling me that I guess if it doesn't run direct connect to your battery, that sometimes it'll overheat and it turns off, because, you know, that day it turned off about 5 times. And unfortunately, the biggest bass I've caught in my life, I didn't even get it on video. I've got a million other videos, but I don't have that one, you know.
It's a good trade-off. You won the tournament.
I was going to say, I'll take the check and the trophy over getting that one video.
Yeah, you got the proof.
If y'all have any questions for either one of these two about their wins, about their season in general, about any of the techniques you heard about, throw them in the comments, and we'll get them over to them to answer. Eric, let's pivot back to you, man, and let's pretend, if you will, that Tennessee would have been a one-day event, like Texas was. How would you have approached that differently? I know you talked about your B spot versus your A spot and how you stacked them up. Would you have done anything differently had that been a one-day event?
That's easy to say right now.
Yeah.
It turned out, you know, oh gosh, honestly, that experience on the flooded river was so robust. You know, probably I'm not the most skilled angler, but my instincts usually serve me pretty well, and my instinct would have been to probably go upriver if it was just a one-day event, because I just had such a good practice there. I did really like the idea of letting it rest, you know, Friday, because I really didn't think anybody, you know, a lot of the guys just don't like current. You know, Lambert's really good in it, and Jordan and some guys, but a lot of the guys, they just are like, oh, I don't want to mess with that, and that's my favorite way to fish. I mean, when we go out of town, I'm trying to find moving water most of the time. So But yeah, I think I probably would have went upriver because it was just such a good practice that it'd be like, why would you not do that? And
Yeah.
And it could have been different on Saturday too, from how you found it on Sunday. I don't know when they dropped the water. I didn't pay that much attention. I just knew it was rolling that weekend.
It was. It was literally. I mean, I was probably doing the treadmill at 2.5 miles an hour. It's just where that was just basically spot lock with the motor. I was like, well, this is interesting. And my first fish I caught, a catfish came out and hit a spinnerbait. I was like, well, that's interesting. And I was about to just call it a day. And then in practice, I probably, honestly, that stretch, I probably and I've caught some big fish in my day. I don't know that I've caught a 20-inch fish in consecutive days and 220s on one of those consecutive days, especially in a tournament. And so that was kind of wild. So it was like, no matter what I do, I can't really go wrong. And the one good fish I lost in practice on Thursday in the south area was kind of in a little different area. It wasn't around riprap. I found a steeper, deeper, clean bank, and I throw a spot sticker spinnerbait. A lot of guys know that. It's my favorite spinnerbait, and had one of those on, and I'd fished it, too long. I probably needed to replace it, and hooked a good one, and I didn't realize how good it was, and I was kind of halfway trying to boat flip it, and it broke the R-band in the spinnerbait. So I had the blades and no lure, and I was like, well, okay, at least that was a solid bite. And and the good thing about Guntersville, it's such a healthy fishery. There's good fish from the brown fish that Lambert wrecks to the green fish and everything in between. There's even, I caught an 18-inch spot in practice on Thursday upriver. So it's like there's just such good quality fish. I felt like that's on your side. When for me, if there's quality fish and the fish are cooperating, that's my kind of tournament. I'd rather fish a shootout where I've got a bust 90 than I would something that's an 82, 83-inch top scenario that fishes really tough.
That's good. We've got some comments and questions. Zach, did you see that comment about swing on by Hector's house? He's going to get you hooked up with direct power.
That's well, Hector's the one that I talked to after the tournament was over, and I just mentioned, I was like, man, I didn't get the video of that big one on there, and he was the one that told me, is like, well, that's probably because you got that battery pack that's getting hot and your GoPro's getting hot. So I'll definitely be addressing that. That's for sure. Because I know once I got into fishing a couple of years ago, I know y'all mentioned doing some elk hunting. I know I was a big bow hunter, and I still am. But I know I self-filmed a lot of my bow hunting stuff too, and I never really had the issue of hot and heat turning my GoPro off doing that. So with fishing, it's a little different here in Texas. But I'm definitely going to get that going because, man, I really do. I would rather win the tournament and not have the video. But, of course, obviously, when it's all said and done, if you're someone that is videoing your fishing, it is a little bit sad to not be able to, even if you don't post it, to go back and watch that hook set and watch you leaning on that fish and bringing them in, So I'll definitely get with Hector and get that corrected.
I heard Hector's got 3 spoon engines.
Oh,
it's a fact.
Hey, former Tennessee State champ Ethan Jett says quickest way to not catch a fish is start recording. So maybe it was a blessing that you weren't recording.
Hey, I will say this. I know I was real big 2 years ago when I first started fishing. I was like hardcore, wanting to get every 2 different GoPros going. And after a while, I was like, you know what? Until I get to where I'm actually good at this, I'm not going to mess with it. I'll turn a camera on and let it record me, but I really don't focus on the camera as much as I am about, because I really want to get good and be one of the best at this. And I know I do think that when you add camera and you add filming, it just adds that other wrinkle in there. And until you're really, really good at it, I feel like other than just throwing the camera up and letting it record, it's probably not something you should be messing with, I probably shouldn't be messing with it myself, but I know I just want to do it,
Yeah. I've got the opposite story arc of you, Zach. I've been fishing a long time, but I'm a new bow hunter. So we're crossing in the streams here.
Nice.
We're growing Jeff up fast. He's bow hunting. He's bought a truck. He'll have a full beard and some tobacco juice dripping down his chin.
I'm gonna do a mullet too, Brian. I think I'm gonna get a mullet.
Well, I don't know if we can pull that off, but we'll try.
We'll just I can comb it to the front too when I have my hat on.
Yeah, for work.
Yeah, for work. It'd be good. We got some questions I've got to start up. Chris asks, Zach, he's asking, how are you shaking after that big catch? Were you shaking? You have the twitches?
I would say I wasn't necessarily I wasn't shaking as much as I was just my heart rate probably went from 130 to 195 or something like that, but I wasn't shaking as much as I was just pumped, once I hooked her and I knew that I had her in my kayak and I didn't get a 25.7. I just got the first picture. I just kind of snapped one real quick. It was 25.5. And that was before I kind of let her settle down and got the 25.75 picture. I was definitely excited, but I know I wasn't shaking as much, as maybe I thought I might be with a fish that size. I've caught a lot of 24 and a half inch fish, but
damn Texas people.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a pile of them 24 and a half. So
little old 24s
stacked like cordwood.
I'll tell you that I will say this, that 25, when it goes from 24 and a half to almost 26 inches, it's a different looking little animal. I know there's one of the guys that does really, really well in a lot of our trails, the Ricky Julig. I know I messaged him because I had a scale with me, but it was a real cheap one, and I weighed her, and I've caught a bass that weighs more than her. That was 9.69. The first one that I caught, that was my biggest one, but she was only 24 and a half inches. And so this one I kind of assumed would be a double digit, but she only weighed on my scale. And talking to Ricky, I know he sent me a picture of one that he caught that was a 12, and that was 26 inches. And that thing was giant. So I was like, okay, well, maybe she really was only 9.4. I was thinking my scale was probably off because I was like, how does a 26-inch bass not weigh 10 pounds, But she was a little bit skinny, that's for sure.
So all you guys holding up 21 saying she's 10, it's not.
She's in fact not 10. Yeah. It's still 7.5.
Say that. One thing I did notice though with that big one that I caught that was almost 26 is I tried to take a selfie and I held her up, I was trying to get my camera. It made her look like she was probably 20, because
it's key. The long arm effect was out of out of the picture.
I was laying across my chest, trying to not get and looked very good,
Back in the old days, I don't know, Eric, if you ever fished any of these tournaments back when they were allowed to open the mouth and jack that thing all around and get as much, you could have got that thing to 28.
Oh yeah, the good old river bassing rules. Just get it on the board, get a picture.
Yeah, just open that mouth wide open, do whatever you could to get them inches, man. That was crazy times.
Zach, I know you said you're pretty new to the tournament fishing. There's actually a trick in Texas where you keep an extra tail in your pocket, and that could have been a 28, 29. Who knows? Who knows?
It's like the got your nose trick that you're going same idea.
Just bust out that extra tail and get you a few more inches there.
What's funny, when I first started kayak fishing, my first thought was, I was like, man, I wonder how many people cheat,
Believe me, that's a lot of people's question today.
We send them all to Texas.
That's how they founded this network.
We got to sniffing around too much.
This network was founded on controversy.
I'm just glad the Clintons don't kayak fish.
Well, it hit me because I was like, how can you, when I first started, I know I'm not a perfect person, but I would never do something shady. And I was like, how can you even cheat? You got to put it on a board and take a picture of it. I was like, how can you cheat? And of course, then I was kind of informed on probably what y'all are talking about some people that were cutting the tail of a fish and making them longer. And I was like, man.
He kept the extra tail in his pocket. That's how the game wardens rolled up on him in a fishing tournament with the tail in his pocket. It wasn't me.
Man, how'd that get in here? What is this?
Yeah, look at that. There's an extra fish tail.
It's my key ring. Leave me alone.
Yeah. And that I guess is why they make you leave the tail exposed now. Yep. That's it. when I first started, I was like, why can't I just put my hand on the fish? And they're like, well, you can't block the tail because of this and that. And I was like, what's
That's
the
why.
deal here? And I was like, oh, okay, well, now it makes sense. I guess if people were legitimately doing that, I mean, I don't know how you could feel good about yourself getting a win that way, but I guess to each their own, you know.
Them clicks, man, it means a lot. If you can,
Right.
you can post
He's in prison rubbing Kool-Aid on his lips right now.
And
Wow. Oh man. Any more questions for either one of these people? Put them in the comments. I've got a few saved here. 2 for Zach, both from Chris on YouTube. Zach, was that your PB? And do you use live scope? Which I think both are yeses. I saw the scope on the.
yeah, so I mean, PB wise, that's the longest bass I've caught. I've caught heavier weight as far as fish, but that's the biggest one I caught. I do use live scope. As far as was I using live scope to look under the dock and see that bass was there? I almost always kind of turn my live scope on, but as far as like going to each and every dock and like scanning to look and go, oh, is there a bass under here? I'm not going to skip this dock. I don't necessarily use it like that. I used it more like on that dock where I caught that big girl. If I scan around the dock and the exterior of the dock or the underneath of the dock, I see a ton of bait. I'm not going to look at my live scope. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to start skipping under that dock. And that's pretty much what I did there was I turned that corner and I started to go past that dock and I just scanned over with my live. And there was, I mean, like Eric was saying, there's a million bait fish in front of that dock, up under that dock. And I thought, man, there's got to be a big bass under here. And so I started skipping it. But so far I have live, but I have mega live Humminbird. Just for everybody on here, if you get live, don't buy Humminbird. I hope.
Yes.
I hope they're
No, Humminbird's not my sponsor.
Definitely
and
not now.
live, their live is trash.
Definitely not now. Thanks a lot, Zach.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just being real. But the Humminbird Mega Live, it's taken me probably 2 years to get to where I can use it somewhat effectively, but I'm still not that guy that fishes looking at my screen and like fishing a jerk bait and a drop shot only.
Rolando Nandine.
That's not my style. I did try doing that for a little while and I realized I was like, man, I like to fish what I see and I like to fish structure that's on a shoreline. I like to punch. I like to do a frog, do a chatterbait. And I just kind of use the live more or less to scan and like see, is there bait fish around? Where's that brush pile? Look at 60 feet that way. That's typically the way that I use my live. I don't really watch the lure and sit there trying to look at the lure because you can't do it with Humminbird anyway, you know?
That's the design. It's forcing you to fish.
Right.
Thomason, what electronics did you utilize in your state win?
What do you think, Lambert?
I know what I think. I want to hear it from the pro himself.
Well, I am about as graph illiterate as a human could be.
Piranha Max?
I do have a Garmin 93 SV, no live scope, and I really, honest to God, look at the map to see if I can make my way back to where I went. And I look at water temperature and depth, and that's just about it.
Well, that's all right. And you know what I like about seeing, everybody, it is sort of an arms race these days with motors and electronics and, everything that goes into these tournaments and trying to compete. But it just goes to show you can still have a lot of success without maxing out, 5 screens and DP motors and all that stuff. You can still do it, right? Don't feel forced into that box. Right, Eric?
Absolutely. And I mean, Jordan is a prime example of somebody, just goes out there and puts the lure in water, more than most everybody else that fishes and fishes the way he does. Drew Gregory's very similar to that. Some of the really quality guys, the ones I think utilize it the best are using it as a tool, just like Zach said. He's not just depending on it. I think some of these guys that are cycling through, 15, 20 different lures. I mean, how much time do you waste in a day doing that to try to catch fish that don't want to cooperate? I'm trying to hit 5 in the head. It's like I'm not going to sit on the stool all day and get rejected. So
whoa,
I think Zach disappeared.
You got
Zach
Mega
said
Live
he's heard
right out of here.
He's heard enough of that.
Hummingbird.
got a hold of him.
They got him. They shot his IP.
We have mentioned Hummingbird and the Clintons in the same podcast. He probably
Ooh, Zach, you're back.
they
We thought
snatched him.
we thought the Hummingbird folks done zapped your IP from satellite or something. We didn't know what happened.
So they're like, we're definitely never sponsoring this guy.
I know Jeff got a text from a sponsor, and that was it. He cut your feed.
Nah, heck no, man. Never. The tail never wags the dog in these parts.
Hey,
That's right.
But to Hummingbird, I do still have Hummingbird on my kayak. So just so y'all know, I didn't sell it yet.
Okay. You just fell on a wad of cash from winning. We talking about maybe making a little move there, a little upgrade, or you going to buy a new bow? What's going to happen with that?
Man, I definitely am not going to get. I just had last year my Old Town, which I started off. A lot of people probably be like, "Oh my gosh!" About 24 months ago, when I first started, I started with an Ascend 12T paddle kayak, and I was just paddling around fishing tournaments, until I decided I was going to get serious with it. And I've got an Old Town autopilot. And they have some great service. I will say this: Old Town does. My hole cracked right where my feet are at the base of my seat, and it cracked. I let them know, sent them pictures. They sent me a brand new hole. Got that set up, so I know I'm definitely not going to be really looking at switching anything, and I probably won't even mess with the electronics, just because if I was that guy that wants to sit there and look at the live and the screen all day, I would get Garmin. But for me, I kind of like to just fish what I see. That's just kind of my style.
It's good stuff.
Thomason, how has your life changed after your win?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it's the same. It's been the same, since I quit a real job. So fishing and golf, and that's about it. Dogs, but
that's tough. Any new sponsors or anything come about?
Yeah, I've got a kind of a cool story in that regard. But to your point, and you went through this with your big wins. You finished second in a big tournament. You finished in the top 5, top 10. It's an accomplishment, but everybody else is really looking at wins and losses, so to speak. And people came out of the woodwork. And I'm sure the Texas tournament was the same thing. Even though that was a state tournament, there was a lot of eyes on that tournament. I got after Saturday, Christine sent me a message. Ewing sent me a message. Abby was in my corner the whole weekend. Luke Arian, of course, the guys I was staying with that fish everywhere. So it was cool to see that. And, Lambert will get this, Jeff, you and Zach won't. I got a couple of messages from Mickey Anderson, and I was like, that's got to be good luck. Mickey fishes with Lambert at TBKA. He's a good dude. He's gone through some interesting stuff. I was like, Mickey Anderson just said, get them done tomorrow. And so being able to do it in over a 2-day tournament against that field and have things go your way was great. Sponsorship wise, I've kind of stayed away from sponsorships. Frontier's been good to me, and Hobie's been good to me. And as far as equipment and stuff like that, I was like, you know what? I don't really need sponsors. I'll fish with what I want. And the community is such a good community. I guess we go to Susky every chance we get. We love it so much up there. And I think it was 2 years ago, we floated upriver down to the campground just below the Juniata, and we basically needed a ride back to the truck. And there was a guy there, and he had just finished up and said, man, which direction are you going? And he said, I'm headed up this way. I said, man, you care to give me a ride to the truck? And he said, no, not at all. And I didn't think much about it. The guy's name's Brandon Palmer. Fast forward to this year, run into him again down there, and find out he's a rod maker, and he's got really, really nice rods to boot. And he'd given Jordan a swim bait rod, and then we kind of shot the bull a little bit. And then I had a really good tournament at Susky. I came in 4th up there and just had a blast. It's just such a fun place to fish. And then get back home, and we're at the Hobie Chick, and Brandon, his motor malfunctioned, and he said, hey, George said, hey, do you care to let Brandon use your backup one horse? And I was like, yeah, that's great. So I loaned him the motor, and I said, just you can drop it off in Knoxville on your way home, or we'll hook up somewhere down here. So fast forward to pick up my motor. It's on the front porch. He leaves me one of his beautiful rods to try out. And I was like, man, you didn't have to do that. That's too much. And so it's literally as soon as I picked up that rod, it's a 7.3 medium heavy. It's just a beautiful grip. super lightweight, really high end blanks, just all the really quality stuff you want in a rod. I started doing veteran tournaments, and I just started kind of texting back and forth, joking around with them, and one thing leads to the other. And he said, "I want you to represent Little Miami Outfitters, next year." And I was like, "Man, that'd be great." And so he's actually meeting us tomorrow at Susky, and he sent me a text and he said, "Hey, FedEx don't suck." He said they actually delivered these rods early, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff for you guys to try. So we're gonna go up, try some new rods, and the cool thing about Brandon is he's a hammer. I mean, he's in the top 25 in the Bassmaster standings. He's first guy out in the Hobie TOC. And so you got a guy that's got a skill to make rods, but he's sitting in a plastic boat just like we are. So stuff starts making sense. And if you say, "Hey, I dropped one of your rods in the water in this Weeknight Classic, and I thought I'd lost it, and then I went back and found it, and the next cast I caught a fish," he gets it because that stuff happens. I was fishing a spinnerbait and a spook. I dropped that spinnerbait rod in the water, started throwing the spook, get up, wind's blowing 30 miles an hour, and I start to grab my spinnerbait again. I dropped it in the water, and it was a miracle that I found it. And then when I picked it up, popped it up against the cast, ended up catching a good fish, and I ended up winning that tournament Sunday night. So it's been a fun deal getting to know him. He's a class act guy. Little Miami Outfitters is named after Little Miami River. He lives in Southern Ohio, and he's got some guys like Jordan, I think Dusty Yacker, and some other guys have got some of the rods that he has built for him. But I'm really excited about it. He's a great guy. He's one of us, and so we're gonna have some fun next week. And that's kind of one of the things that happen when you win a big tournament. You get taken a little bit more seriously when you talk to folks.
That's awesome. Hey, small world, Eric. I grew up on the Little Miami and Stillwater River up there. That's where I learned the navigation stuff. So funny stuff out of a canoe. That's awesome. Congrats, man. Well deserved. You're one of the most deserving English for that kind of stuff. So
I appreciate that, Jeff.
Yeah. Before we wrap things up, we've got to talk about not just the tournament, but the throwdown experience. Zach, tell us about the throwdown. I'm gonna throw Duke on the screen. Of course, you won the tournament, but the throwdown's more than a tournament. It's more of a celebration at the end of the year. Tell us what went down with the event itself outside of the fishing.
Well, I mean, that picture says it all right there. Look at that. Look at that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
down.
This was my third throwdown, and I will say I've never. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The amount of delicious food that was prepared and served to all of us anglers there was, I mean, a big shout out to Duck for just being, I mean, he does a great job. I mean, as far as setting these tournaments up, him and his team, the cook team, I mean, they do phenomenal work. As far as they had a keg there. They had the Western Sun full. There it is, right there, the full spread. I mean, it was wild. I personally drove. I went there to the awards, and then I drove home to be with the family. I'd been gone, but I didn't stay there that night. But I will say that they roll out the red carpet for everybody that comes to it. And I mean, whether you live in Texas or maybe you're outside of Texas, it would be a tournament that I would say it'd be worth driving down to fish next year. I mean, this year there was 120 of us. The first year I fished this event, there was 180. So I feel like there's always going to be a large group of people, really good anglers, awesome food, awesome atmosphere. I would highly encourage anybody out there that's in the kayak world that they need to be coming and fishing this tournament next year.
For sure. We've always heard good things about the Lonestar Throwdown, just how it's as much, hanging out and, kind of spending some time with people outside of the, just competition setting. I think that's the best balance that the Lonestar Throwdown has.
Well, that's one thing to add to what you're just saying there is that, I mean, I've fished 2 years and I've met a lot of guys and became friends with a lot of guys. I mean, and it's amazing to me how a lot of the people who fish these tournaments that are really, really good, you'd think that they would kind of keep their cards close to their heart, not share with you. But it's really the opposite of that. If you really, they might not come out and be like, "Hey, Zach, what were you doing? This is what I was doing." But if you go talk to people, they're more than willing to share with you and talk with you about what things that they did that day. And I kind of did that for the last 2 years, learning from everybody. And it was amazing to me how many of the top names out there. I'm not going to name any names because I'll leave people off, but how many people after this tournament just sent me messages or came up to me personally and said, "Hey man, you really deserve this. I know you've been working really hard at this." And that's one thing I feel like too that is special about the kayak fishing and just group is maybe it's that way in the bass boat industry. I don't really know. I haven't fished those kind of trails, but I feel like it's a different type of camaraderie where people genuinely come up and say, "Hey man, great job. You did a fantastic job. You deserve this." I don't know if that really happens in the bass boat world, I think, but in the kayak fishing industry, I feel like we're all super competitive, but we also know how to call a spade. And if someone wins, we're willing to celebrate with them, and that's one thing I will say about all the local people here in Texas, the guys that are really what I would consider hammers across the United States that came up to me and told me, "Great job. You did a hell of a job today." It was pretty moving to say the least, the amount of people that had come up and talked to me and send me messages after the tournament.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, things like the throwdown, Lambert already said it, but that's part of kayak fishing we miss most of the time is that celebration aspect after events are over with. And events like the throwdown, events like the Big Bass 250 coming up are going to try to, continue to recapture that, but we need to try to get that into most of these tournaments. That'd be great.
Agreed. That's a huge part that's been missing really COVID kind of killed it, I think.
Yeah.
And then we just got used to not seeing each other.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I guess it's still the after effects.
Yep. That's right.
Well, I think the easy thing to do with these kayak tournaments is just from my personal experiences, the camaraderie, you kind of miss out on it if you get, and this is my experience, if you get so caught up into the result of like, I'm going to win this tournament, I got to do this, I got to do that, and you're not just relaxed and having a good time, and not saying you need to get hammered and not be able to perform the next day.
Ooh, okay. Make your rules.
For me,
I'm staying home.
you could do that. For me personally, I'm kind of like, I'm not going to do that. I like to celebrate maybe after the tournament, but for everybody else, the other thing too is like, if you don't go to the awards, that's one thing I will say is that going to the awards, yeah, you might not have had a good day, but if you go to the awards, I usually leave feeling good, even if I maybe didn't have that good of a day, because you go celebrate with the other guys and you know that it's just a matter of time. If you keep grinding, you really work hard and you study and you learn from these guys that are at the awards, you can go learn and pick their brains from these guys that are doing really well, and you can improve your skill and get better at this sport if you really want to,
Yeah. Good stuff. Wise words, Zach. Wise words. Great show, y'all. I'm sorry it took so long to get you on, Eric, but you're here. And it was.
He ain't got nothing else to do. He's just
great.
Just
Great to hear the story of that championship win, man. I know. I hope you do damage at the TOC coming up. Hope you do good on the Susky.
Thank you.
What's left in Texas, Zach? Just bow hunting, or you got any more tournaments down there?
Yeah, it'll be boat tomorrow morning. I'm hoping to go out and get me. We got a big cold front coming tonight. The high tomorrow is like 40 degrees. So I'll be out in I hunt public land, so I'll be out there looking to get me a big old public land. I'll take a buck or a doe tomorrow to be my first day hunting.
Yeah.
But I'm going to fish the native Big Bass tournament coming up on November 16th. And other than that, there'll be a couple of charity events that I'm going to fish, but that's going to be kind of the wrap for my season. And then I'll bow hunt and do a little fun fishing. That's the rest of my year.
It's awesome. Well, great job, guys. We appreciate you both taking the time on a Tuesday night to visit with us. Two yahoos, but it was a great visit, great insight from both of you, and congrats again.
Congrats, champs.
All right, thank you. And Eric, hey, good luck. Good luck on the TOC, brother.
You too, man. I'll be in Texas in March. Maybe we can hook up.
That sounds good, brother. Yeah, let me know, man. I'll be happy to.
All right, man. We'll see you.
There we go.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Zach Branch, Eric Thomason, everybody.
I like it.
Yeah, I like Zach. Glad we got to visit with him.
He had a fan club in the comments.
Yeah, he did. Texas
Nicest, bestest guy ever.
Texas don't play.
Nope.
All right, we're gonna do this email giveaway while we wrap this thing up. But it was good to be back, Ryan. This is a little week off, getting things done.
I like it in the fall because there's not 8,000 things really to keep up with.
Yeah.
So there's not as much pressure. Sorry to everyone that's used to tuning in on Monday nights, but it feels kind of good to sit back and watch football and relax a little bit.
Yeah, go close on a truck, those kind of things happen.
You make me want to go buy a new one now. Is that tax deductible? Can we put that on the business, you think?
We gonna try.
I didn't know we bought a truck.
We gonna try. I don't know if we can deduct that on the cornhole YouTube or the kayak. We'll do something, I guess.
I just did my taxes. They were due today, so I did them today. That was fantastic. Now I understand why I put it off until the fall.
Yeah. Oh, good times.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah. Z-Man in the comments get a chance to win. I see the entries rolling in. I don't know. Are those packs? Are those hooks that you showed at the beginning?
I don't know.
For production yet, or not?
They are out for production. They were supposed to be in my mailbox, but I haven't seen them yet. So I can't wait to get them and test them out myself. I don't know if they'll be in the new prize packs. Obviously, it's a new product release, so I don't want to overpromise. But we've had some pictures posted of stuff that folks have gotten in the past. Usually spinner baits, a couple chatter baits, some Nid rigs, whatnot.
Right. All right. So let's hit this drawing. See who wins. Facebook or YouTube tonight. Let's see who it's going to be. Coming up, I see some new names in the comments tonight. So maybe
where's our Twitcher
winner.
been? Have you seen our Twitcher?
We're not on Twitch anymore. TJ Akins over on Facebook. No more Twitch. We got rid of.
We're not on Twitch. I felt like we were about to hit our lick, man. We're gonna get a deal.
I went back and reviewed our ROI on Twitch, and the guy that was on Twitch was toggling back between Twitch and YouTube just to stay relevant over there. So
we weren't even getting revenue from that.
I gave up on Twitch.
How are we going to retire if we keep running it this way?
Well, depending on how things go in next month, none of us may retire ever.
No, we'll just cook. That's okay.
Yeah, it'll be all right. But good show, man.
Well, we survived another one. What do you say we do this next week? We actually have a big tournament this weekend, so we will. Well, let's do it. We'll do it Monday. We'll be back on a regularly scheduled afternoon. We'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, football be damned.
Yeah, that's right.